Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program, where philosophical expansion plus soul-to-soul communion equals big love. I'm Lisa Bunnies, and I'm really looking forward to hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Tim Freke and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program, which begins Thursday, September 19th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. It's not a problem, but first, I want to introduce our guest. Tim Freke is a pioneering philosopher whose teachings have touched the hearts and minds of hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. He's the author of 35 books, translated into 15 languages. In his latest books, Deep Awake and Soul Story, Tim offers a revolutionary approach to awakening for the 21st century and a visionary new understanding of the nature of reality. Tim's the creator of Unividualism, a deeper way of living, and the founder of the International Community of Unividuals. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions, but first, I want to welcome Tim, who's going to begin our conversation by leading us in an opening meditation. Welcome, Tim. It's great to see you today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's lovely to connect with you. Yeah, I'd like to start, before we get into all of the questions, I'd like to start with the opposite. I'd like to start with the mystery. Because everything that I want to share starts and ends with this profound mystery of existence that we're in right now. So I'd invite you to close your eyes if you can. You don't have to, but if you can, because that changes our state immediately. But just to close your eyes and to settle into this moment. Relax your body, feel present with the moment. And then, in that space, to be conscious of something utterly obvious that we normally don't notice. Which is that this moment is a breathtaking mystery. That it is. That we are here, having this experience we call being alive. We spend so much of our time caught up in the story of our lives, and the story's great, but we miss this awesome, breathtaking mystery right here. What is this moment? What is it, actually? Do we know? I don't think we do. I suspect, like me, you're experiencing a flow of sensations, of listening and looking, and the colors when my eyes are open, and shapes, sounds, thoughts. What is it? What is this journey we're on, actually? And coming face to face with that depth of mystery. As a body, I exist in space. In a universe of such size, infinite space. When I look into the night sky, each little dot is not just a star, but a galaxy full of 100 billion stars. That is what we are in, my friends. And we're in this flow of time, which has been expanding for nearly 14 billion years to create our universe. And here we are at the end of that magnificent process, experiencing this. I just invite you to appreciate how profoundly mysterious that is. And you and I are not just bodies. We're also experiencing this other dimension of the imagination, the psyche, what used to be called the soul, a dimension of our experience which isn't made of matter, in which these ideas are arising as I pass them from my psyche to yours. How mysterious is that? That I can make these funny noises with my mouth and pass to you intangible ideas for you to explore with me right now. Just be with that mystery for a moment. And then the mystery of the journey we're on, from life to death. And I suggest beyond. Feel that mystery. And feel how valuable this experience of life truly is. There is a mystery which is always present at the depths all the time. And everything I want to share with you arises and respects that mystery which we are in, that deep not knowing, from which all our insights and wisdom arises. And then when you're ready, if you've got your eyes closed, as I have, then open your eyes, and here we are, about to explore that mystery together. And then for those that want to, 7 weeks of building an exploration. And what I want to share with you is what I have learned from my 60 years exploring this mystery. And I want to share what we've called the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program, because I want to share deep ideas which can actually transform not only how you understand reality, but how you experience your life and bring it to life. And also something experiential, which is waking up to the deepest aspects of life, what I call the wow, because it is a wow thing. To just enter the mystery deeply is a wow thing, actually. And I want us to go deeper and deeper into that wow. Because when you do, there's this enormous sense of oneness which is felt as love, which actually for me is the only thing that makes life really make sense, makes life worth living. This love, which is there for us to discover, and which the mystics and saints and sages have talked about forever, all through history. So what I want to do in these 7 weeks is I'll help us make the next evolutionary jump. And Lisa said at the beginning, I've created this philosophy and set of practices which I call unividualism, and that's because I think what is happening to us is we're evolving from individuals into unividuals, which is individuals conscious of unity and experiencing this big love. And this, I think, is 7 weeks is a fantastic opportunity to go deeper and deeper and deeper, to connect with ourselves, to connect with each other, and connect with life. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm delighted to get the chance now to deal with questions that people have and have asked for me to address, and I'll do my best to do that.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Sounds like fun. So we have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for Tim as we prepare for his upcoming course. Again, that's called the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program. And again, it begins Thursday, September 19th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit evolutionarywakeup.com to see the full description. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen there. So let's go ahead and get started with questions. If you have a question for Tim, go ahead and type them in, and I'll be happy to read them aloud. And in the meantime, we've already got some questions here waiting for it. We'll start with an easy one, sort of. I mean, we've got people asking, what is God? But we'll wait a little later for that one.
We'll build up to God, shall we, Lisa? Yeah. We'll ask God to wait.
Yeah, God can wait.
Yeah, he's very patient.
That's right. So Sandra wants to know, and you sort of already touched on this, but let's go ahead and expand it a little. Sandra wants to know, how does it feel when you're fully awakened?
I have no idea, because I don't think there is any fully awakened. One of the things which there's one of the taglines in this course is the idea that waking up is not what you think it is. And that's because I started exploring awakening from the age of 12 when I had a spontaneous awakening. That felt like enormous love, like the whole universe is pulsating with love, and that I was so profoundly connected with everything in the sky, the earth, other people, everything, that I was an expression of a fundamental oneness. And that's not just what I experienced. I've written all of these books on all of the spiritual traditions of the world, really going, hey, look, these are people like you and I who one day had this, what I call the being deep awake, and experienced this enormous oneness, or communion, sometimes it's called. And with it comes this love or compassion. In India, it's sometimes called metta. The original Christians used the Greek, agape, compassion, connection, deeply felt connection, because you're one with everything. And the other thing which comes with it is what I call a deep knowing. In the West, it's called gnosis, spelled with a G, Gnosis. That's what the original Christians called it, gnosis. In the Eastern tradition, in India, it's called gnana, also with a silent G, really. And this is a particular type of knowing. It's a knowing which is so deep it's kind of beyond words. It's a deep intuitive knowing of something, which you then do your best to articulate. And as a philosopher, I've spent my life doing my best to try and articulate that deep knowing. And actually, ironically, I think the most accurate representation of the deep knowing sounds very naive and childlike. I think what the deep knowing gives me, and again, I see this not just with me, but other people who've had the same experiences, is a profound faith in the goodness of existence. That despite all of the suffering, and God knows there is so much suffering, and all of the madness, and there's enough of that, despite all of that, there is a goodness so big that it embraces this. And part of the philosophy I want to share is, how can that be true? Given the suffering and the evils of existence, which should not be dismissed, how can it be true that in the deep awake state, this is profound intuition that life is good? And I'll explore that in some detail. But the feeling is, oh, look, life is good. One of the phrases that came to me was, life is good, death is safe, and what really matters is love. It's those sort of childlike intuitions that just become, these are the deepest things I know. I've written philosophy. I want to share deep philosophy. I'm in a practical, accessible way, not in an abstract way. But really, the deepest things I know are these very almost childlike things that arise in the deep awake state. Now, I started by saying I don't know what it's like to be fully awake or whatever it was. So one of the things I want to get rid of is this idea that we imported from India, really in the 50s and 60s. It's an idea in Indian religion, which is that there is an enlightened state which you should aspire to. It comes from quite a negative, actually, I mean, it's a beautiful idea, but it comes from a very negative mythology that you are lost in life. Life is a bad thing that you need to get out of. You need to escape from it. You need to get rid of it because it's full of suffering. And that when you fully escaped, you're enlightened. That's where it's come from historically. Obviously, it's moved and changed, and not everyone treats it like that, of course, now. But that's where it's come from. And what I think is that we should get rid of this idea of fully enlightened, fully realized, because we're in an evolutionary reality, and there's always more. Always more. I don't think you arrive somewhere and you get the badge and you're done and congratulations, you've finished. There's a line which I put in one of my books. In fact, I think I liked it so much I might have put it in more than one, which says, the bad news is there's no arriving. But the good news is there's no arriving. Because would you want to arrive, actually? Isn't what makes life worth living is that it's continually expanding and evolving and becoming more. And that's been my experience of awakening. So in one way, it's kind of the same. The love is the same when I get the chance to go deeply in it, but my understanding of it is transformed. And I feel that I'm on an evolutionary journey of going deeper and deeper into it. And then I've had this amazing thing, really, all my life, but especially over the last 20 or 30 years, that I've been blessed with sharing it with other people and introducing other people, often, actually, for the first time, and seeing their faces when they experience this wow of awakening. And it can happen at any time. And my intention will be that it can happen to us as we do this 7-week course together.
Okay, wow, thank you. And in fact, something that you said leads beautifully into some questions here. Let's go ahead and deal with the difficulty of life. We've got 2 questions here. Let me go ahead and read them both because they're connected. Misty says, it can be hard to feel grateful and awe-filled about being alive when circumstances are endlessly difficult. How can I crawl out of misery in order to feel that awe and gratitude to be here? And then Dorian says, you just said our story is great, but what about when your story isn't so great? I work with refugees and they have huge traumas. How can we deal with this? So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Oh, God. So these are the deep questions. These are the really deep questions. Because I am not myself of the school of spirituality that goes, everything's great. It can all be perfect. Let's just, believe enough or imagine it enough and it will all be perfect. That is not true. Life is beautiful, but life is paradoxical. And one of the things I'll explore in our time together, I won't do it now, is what I call paralogical thinking, which is thinking in opposites because life is paradoxical. So it's not just good, but it's not just bad either. It's both. It is beautiful and it's ugly. There is huge grace to be experienced and magic, and there's cruelty and banality. And we're all in different places and we all have different parts of that great spectrum in our stories at different times. I was very moving to hear I've forgotten the name of the person who's working with refugees. I mean, wonderful, good for you. I mean, because there are human beings having a really hard time. And then there's some of us who are having a really hard time and nothing like that's happening. We're just having a hard time because our soul is having a hard time. And that could be the most difficult of all. So my approach is to say, look, everything's evolving. So the great challenge of life is not only to evolve further ourselves, but it's also to live with all the pre-existent levels. And that means living with matter, the fact that we have to live with the laws of nature. If I want to come to America, where I visit sometimes and run events, I have to get in a plane. I can't just be there. I have to live with that. I have to live with biology, and there's suffering in biology. As in, my body has needs. There's pain. There's dysfunction that happens in the body. I have to live with that. And then there's all of the psychological things, the past, my past. I have to live with that. And then there's all the different levels of society, of people living in all these different states. And so there's still people in a medieval mindset who can be very destructive. They were responsible for taking down the Twin Towers, the anniversary was yesterday. They were in a medieval mindset. Most of us are in 21st century mindset, but they're still there, and that's the sort of chaos that can cause. So the question is, how do we live with all that? Well, the first thing is, it's like, for me, it's both and. This is the paralogical thinking. So I am grateful for all the things I'm grateful for, and I'm appalled by all the things I'm appalled by, and I don't see them as exclusive. So I think trying to be grateful when tough things are happening is just difficult. But there's always something in the middle of it. If you look deeply enough, it's like the yin-yang sign. You know the yin-yang sign with the white and the black, and in the middle of the white there's a little bit of black, and in the middle of the black there's a bit of white. So one of the things which really works, I think, when times are tough, is to go into the toughness, not deny it, not try and spiritualize it away, not to feel bad because I should be feeling guilty for life, but actually it's crap. It's just to really own it. Look, that's the way it is right now. And you know what? It is, because that's a part of reality. But it's not all of reality. There's also something in there, always, which is beautiful and good, even if it's just the breathing. But there's somebody, there's something, there's some memory, there's some event, there's some hope. And to be grateful for that, and that, if you home in, if you find that, it mitigates the opposite. It doesn't take it away, and that's the key for me. When I talk about this love, this awakening, the love, it can sound like a big fluffy thing. Love, and honest to goodness, I really like big fluffy love, and I'm up for as much of it as I can get my hands on. But actually, the love which arises is a strong, robust love, which holds within it suffering, doesn't take it away. So if I think about something which happened to me a few years ago when my parents both died, and sitting with my mum and my dad when they were very sick, and there was a lot of suffering, and there was this love. And it didn't take away the suffering. But I didn't want it to. I wanted to suffer with my mum and dad. I loved them. I love them still. But what the love did was it brought something else to it. So it wasn't just suffering. It was also this deep, almost beautiful, sometimes magical, actually, poignancy. So I think the key thing is that love is this big love is the most emergent thing in the whole 14 billion years of evolution. We need to bring that to the suffering in ourselves and in each other. And we don't do that by pretending it doesn't exist. We do it by absolutely acknowledging that it does. And then we find the thing which is the beauty. We find the thing to be grateful for. We find the mystery even in the middle of the awfulness. And what that does is it brings another quality to it. What the love does is it holds it within it and sustains us in it. And suddenly, the story which feels like it's in a dead end can be transformed. It certainly becomes deep, because my experience is, and I bet you this is true for you too, everyone who's listening to this, is that some of the deepest people you know, and you may be one of them, are deep because they have suffered. Because often that's the route through to waking up and to compassion for others.
All right. Wow. Yeah. Beautifully put. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to something else here, something a little bit easier. Diane wants to know, she says, I'm interested about when you talked about going from individualistic to unividualistic. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So I think the evolutionary process, which the cosmos is an evolutionary process, that's what it is, it seems to me. And it has led to this process we've been in very much for the last few hundred years, and really it's intensified over the last few decades, of individualism. We are so individual now. And as we become more individual, we become more conscious, actually. And that's been very exciting. So, you look back not very long ago, and everyone who worked certainly in England, if you were in a certain class, you wore a certain outfit. If you were working class, you had a cap on. If you had a middle class, you had your bowler hat on. If you were upper class, you had your top hat on. And everyone did, because we weren't really individuals. And you were very much part of your tribe. You go back, and people are really submersed in these collective identities. Now, of course, that's also very prevalent still. But what's happening is that we are individuating. It's a word Carl Jung developed. We are becoming individuals, individuating. And as we do, we individuate. The waking up process has two really phases to it. There's waking up from, and there's waking up to. And the waking up from involves really questioning your culture, whatever it happens to be that you've grown up in, that you take for granted. This is what's real. Where if you're one place in the world, it'll be this. If you're somewhere else in the world, it'll be something else. If you're in different places in history, it'll be something else. But we all have that conditioning, and then you look at it and you go, oh, this is conditioning. And then you can question it, and then you can either agree with it or not, because you've questioned it, and then it's your own. And that's what makes you an individual, because you've woken up, because you've doubted. Doubt is what makes you conscious. Doubt is which is why all cults, all negative spirituality will always tell you, don't think, don't doubt, because it will stop you individuating. And they don't want you to individuate. They want you to be part of the cult or the religion or whatever the negative thing is that they're doing. The way to become an individual, to be yourself, is to doubt, to inquire, and to find your own response, what you take and what you don't. Which is why everything I'm going to do, all these ideas are suggestions for you to contemplate and own and take on for yourself if you like them, or not if you don't. And then there's the waking up to, which is the waking up to this oneness and love. So what's happening is we're individuating, doing well, and the waking up from has been happening. It needs further to go. But what's happening on the back of that is a waking up to this oneness. So something which was about enlightenment, which was for a few obsessive people who lived in caves and in monasteries and thought about nothing else, they have opened up this current for us in evolution, which is now really available. It's astonishing. I mean, I travel the world. I run events all over the world, from the USA, Canada, Europe, or South Africa, and it's astonishing. People are just waking up, and not just waking up in some abstract way, but waking up so deeply you can feel the love, and it's a visceral. You can't miss it. This is it's the most important experience you can have, I think. So that's happening. And so what I see is that we're evolving now from individuals into unividuals, because individualism has been fantastic, but I think we all know that it's come with a price. It's made us atomized. It's divided us off. So we've freed ourselves often from unconscious community, become conscious individuals, but now we don't have any community. And now we need a new conscious community. We need to consciously become one with everyone and everything. So we wake up from the unconscious oneness by becoming individuals, conscious individuals, and then we go through to the conscious oneness. And it needed a name. So I called it becoming a unividual. And I think that's what we're in the process of doing. And I think it's happening. And the signs are there. I may have talked about this, the last thing I did with Shift, but it's worth touching on again, just because it's so important, is that people think the world's going bad, and of course there's always things which are, and we need to take those seriously. But things have been, the level of love and compassion in the world has never been so high. And it's because people are unividuating. They're becoming unividuals. We now care about other human beings we'll never meet from other cultures across the other side of the world. That never happened before. and it's prevalent. Lots of people do, not everyone, but lots do. We care about other species of animal who are in trouble. Why? Why should we experience cross-species compassion? But we do now, and it's because we're unividuating. And then behind it, there's this mystical sense that more and more people, I find now that when I say to people, look, we're one with all, most people go, yeah, I get that. Rather than when I started saying that, say 20, 25 years ago, most people went, I had no idea what you're talking about. So this is happening, and it's happening fast. Evolution has been getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And now it's evolving in the realm of the psyche or the soul or the imagination. It's moving like a rocket. Hence, in my own lifetime, I've gone from no internet to this, for example. These are all signs of that evolution. And that's also bringing us together. So there's real challenges, new challenges, but underneath it, we are building towards unity. And the other thing which is interesting to say about the challenges, particularly if you take challenges like the climate, is that to solve those challenges will require unity. We have to work together. We can't, one person can't solve it, one country can't solve it, one nation, one race, only together. So that's interesting. And, well, more than just interesting, that's urgent and linked into this evolution from individuals into unividuals.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Tim Freke learning about his upcoming course, the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program, which begins Thursday, September 19th. And you can log on to evolutionarywakeup.com for all the details and to register. So let's get back into questions here. We've got a lot of them pouring in here. Here's one from Pamela who says, I feel caught in the middle of it, like I'm stuck. How do I move forward?
Caught in the middle of it. I'm guessing you mean caught in life, or caught in the middle of life, caught in the middle of it all, in the whole sort of drama of it all. And if that's what you mean, then I'm sure there's a lot of us that can relate to that. So my first response is, well, look, hey, don't be surprised. Be kind to yourself, because this is a difficult journey. There's a lovely line from a philosopher, there's a Jewish philosopher, 2,000 years old, called Philo, sometimes called Philo Judaeus. And he says, be kind to everyone, because everyone carries a heavy burden. And we do. And you're carrying a heavy burden. One of the things I love about the Christian tradition is it really acknowledges that. It really goes for that. Look, we're all we all have our cross to bear, as they say. So it's no surprise. So how do you get out of it, though? It's like, that's the key. How do you move beyond that? Well, there's lots of stuff I could say to that, but we won't have time to go into the detail. But the simplest thing, which maybe is appropriate for me to say just in a Q&A, is what we started with, really. I think the simplest thing is to stop in your tracks and come out of the story. So I've said already that I think paralogically, I think in paradox, in opposites. Well, a simple way of getting what that is it's both and thinking rather than either or thinking. And that's something which I've witnessed over the last 20 or 30 years, again, becoming much more popular. So what I mean by that is we've talked about oneness. So it's all one, but we're also individuals. Which are we? Well, we're both. We're both. We're individuals' expression of the oneness. That's a paralogical insight. Life is good, I said. Oh, but what about the bad? Well, it's also that. It's not one. Which is it? Well, it's both. They coexist. So when you feel stuck, it feels like that's probably because you've become involved in your story. And I said the story is great. And I said that specifically because an awful lot of spiritual teachers I hear putting down the story. And I don't know why they do that, because I love people's stories. And stories can be stories of what we're made of. I mean, the universe has evolved into our stories. That's what it's done. And you're meeting the story of Tim, and the story of Tim has wonderful things in it and hard things in it and bits that drive me nuts and bits which I come alive. And I'm on a journey, like you, like everyone. Everyone is. Every single person I've ever met, including all the so-called enlightened masters, are actually all on a journey. And that journey is ambiguous because it's evolutionary. So it has this good and it has bad, and there's times when you get stuck. And like a journey, it feels like, look, if I took a journey now, I live in the countryside, if I went for a walk now, I'd go through the woods, and it'd be dark because it's getting to be night here. And I could end up in the marsh where I could get stuck. And then I could keep going and it would turn into a sunny meadow and it would be great. And different people are in the sunny meadow while somebody else is in the dark woods and someone else is stuck in the swamp. And it sounds like maybe you're a bit stuck in the swamp. Well, first thing is keep going, because then you'll come out, because you just will, because that's what time does. And the second thing is, if to help you out, come out of your story. See the other paralogical side of the thing you're stuck in. So the story's not bad, it's just a process you're in. It's beautiful, actually. It's what you are. It's to be loved in all its ambiguity. But if you're stuck in it, come out of it and just come into the moment and this profound mystery of existence and realize you don't know who you are, what this is. There is something amazing happening. Now, most people who come to my work will have at some point in their lives been going along in their story like this. And something will have happened, and suddenly poof, they will be catapulted out from where they're stuck into the mystery. And that can be anything. You know, it can be something terrible. It can be death, bereavement, illness. It can be something beautiful. Falling in love, having a child, listening to music, the sun on your back. Sometimes it just happens for no particular reason, you know. But that is the way out. So the reason I start always wanting to start with a mystery is to say, look, just find the opposite. If you're stuck in the story, come into the mystery. And you can use this magic thing you have called the attention. Now, it may be difficult to do if you're really stuck, but find a way out. What takes you into the mystery? Does music take you into the mystery? Does nature take you into the mystery? Does this take you into the mystery? And then find it and follow it in. And let it just set you free. And then, but don't think the story's going to go anywhere. And it'll be there when you go back to it, but now see it in a different light. Now bring some creativity to the story. How can I live this story differently? Because no matter how confined you are, even people who are, you know, in prison can change their story, can change their lives by how they think about it and how they approach it. So there will be loads of ways that you can unstuck yourself. But the first thing to do is just come out into the opposite. Find the opposite. Not instead, but as well.
All right. Wow. That was wonderful. Thank you. Looking at the clock here, we have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, I want to go ahead and give a few details about the class itself because people are asking about that as well. Once again, the class is called the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program, and this is going to be just an absolutely fascinating 7-week journey with Tim, where you'll discover the keys to evolutionary spirituality and why time, ego, and the rational mind are not villains, but essential to waking up. And the 7-week course takes place on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, starting Thursday, September 19th. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all of the course handouts on your course homepage. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that the Shift Network offers a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you until October 10th in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another. Also, everyone who registers receives the Evolutionary Wake-Up Program bonus collection. First, you'll receive an ebook by Tim entitled, How Long Is Now? How to Be Spiritually Awake in the Real World. Then, you'll get a video dialogue with Tim and Richard Cox called Beyond Mindfulness. And you'll also receive a video talk from Tim entitled A Deep Awake Life. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, September 12th, you'll receive this extra gift, and that is an audiobook with PDF companion by Tim entitled Lucid Living, Experience Your Life Like a Lucid Dream. Sounds like lots of good stuff. So Tim, let me ask you, what are you most looking forward to sharing in your upcoming course? What really makes you excited about doing this?
Oh, that's the hardest question of them all, because you're asking me to choose. That feels like choosing between my children. Which one do I love the most? Like, I can't tell you that. I love them all, and I'm like that with what I'm going to be sharing. So, for me, again, this polarity. So on the one hand, clear ideas that make you go, whoa. And then on the other hand, the practices. And the practices, there's the individual practices like the ones we've just done, but there's also practices around connecting. And they're very important to me. And they're very, very profound. So we're going to be doing those as well. And there'll be the chance for people to do them in pairs as well, should they be able to, after the session. So there'll be an optional one-to-one session as well, but we'll be doing the other stuff all together. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been astonished at how well they can work in this online medium, and how connected we could be. And it's worth, even for those who are with us right now, you just sense how connected we are, actually. I can feel it. Can't you feel it? It's like, although I'm in England, you're probably, who knows where you are, Lisa's in America, we're here, and yet we are connected. So I'm really looking forward to the feeling that comes from that, and and having the chance to meet up a week in, and go deeper. So it's not just like tonight, it's just one thing. It's like, oh no, see you next week. And I think that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Right, yeah, that is one of the fun things about Shift courses, is you really do make new friends all over the world. So yeah, that is exciting. Yeah. So let's get to that question about God. Barbara says,
yes,
I have problems with the word God. Who or what is this nameless being?
Yes. Well, it's a difficult word, isn't it? I tried to avoid it for years, and then I kind of came back to it, because I've come to a new understanding of it. So, take a deep breath for this one. For me, when I had my awakening when I was 12, my first awakening, I saw it as an experience of God, because that's the understanding I had available to me. And then as I got older, there's problems with God. And part of the problems are, it comes with a lot of religious baggage. He can be a judgmental figure that's looking over you, trying to judge you. It can be a mythic being that created the world in 7 days, and that's all a bit nuts now that we know that that's not true, and blah, blah, blah. So no surprise we have trouble, because it becomes an authority figure. The God of the Old Testament is pretty monstrous and tells people to go and murder countless people, and God knows what. God knows what. Here's what I think is happening. I think the universe is arising from something which you can call being, or a traditional word is spirit, which means being, really. It means essence. From S-A to B, it's being. There's a formless potentiality which is realizing itself as everything. And it's on this incredible journey from the simplest of things, which is how it started, very basic information, matter, atoms, molecules, through the whole of the physical world, through all of life, to this experience of psyche, this unividuating that we're doing. And the essence of the philosophy that I'm going to end up exploring with you, the kind of punchline which we're going to hear in advance, is I think God is not where it starts, it's where it's going. God is what the universe is flowering into. The universe is becoming God. And by God there, what I mean is this being of conscious oneness and totally benign love, which is what I experience when I go into the deep wake state. And it's not just an abstract thing. It's a presence which is holding and supporting me, us. And one of the traditional words for that is God. If not, you can use the word spirit, or what I call it in my books, I call it sometimes transcendent spirit, because it transcends everything. But the big idea I want to share with you is, it's not at the beginning. Because if you put God at the beginning, there's all sorts of philosophical problems, and they're not funny ones. They're not small ones, they're big. And I think every child asks them, and all the great philosophers through the ages have asked them, which is, say them very quickly. One is called the problem of evil. If there's a good God, if there's a God, God who's this is all coming from, why is there so much evil in the world? Why is there suffering? Why is there bugs that will eat a baby's brains from the inside? You really don't, is there any justification for that from a good God? I don't think so. So that God makes no sense. He's a bit of a monster, the God at the beginning. And kind of crazy too. If you wanted to create a beautiful world where human beings have souls and, we can do all of this stuff, why would you do 125 million years of lumbering reptiles, dinosaurs? It's a bit of an odd thing to do. This is an odd God. This God is kind of mad and kind of unpleasant. That's the awful thing you have to face. If you don't think those questions, you can stay with a nice God. But if you think those questions, it's like you're troubled. And which is why a lot of people relate to God, and then something awful happens, and they just think, no, how could that be true? And yet there is this other pole, which is, in my experience, there is a being of love and goodness, and it's right there. So how? And my suggestion is it's because that being of love and goodness isn't running the show. It didn't create this. It's more like it's growing into this. A bit like, look, Tim, who's here now speaking to you, doing his best to be a loving, wise being as best he can, started just as an egg and a sperm. And he's grown up and into a body, and then the body came out and was independent, and then it kind of matured, and then it developed a psyche or a soul, and then, boosh, we were into this now. So that's been my evolution, or my process. I think the whole universe is doing that with God. God is a name for the universe conscious of itself. And what is happening for us is that we get to play a part in the evolution of God. We are the vehicle through which God is coming into existence. And a little thought maybe that I can throw in here without it sounding hopefully too confusing, because there's a lot that I need to say that will help make this more understandable. But maybe I can just say this. It's like when I look at my body, it is a communion of individual cells. And all those individual biological cells have come together to create something which transcends all of them. Something they couldn't possibly imagine, which is Tim's body. This has been a common theme through the evolutionary process, and I think it's happening again. But this time it's on the level of the psyche, which is just the Greek word for soul, the imagination, the thing that you're understanding these words in right now. And it seems to me that when we come into a deep communion of souls, soul to soul, we are creating something which transcends us as individuals. And one of the words you could use for that being is God. So that just as my body is a communion of cells, so God is a communion of souls. So in the ancient Christian theology, you have this idea of the communion of souls around God. What I'm suggesting is the communion of souls is God. And that as we unividuate, as we become unividuals, as we discover this deep oneness, as we feel this profound love, that's because we are coming into this communion of souls, which is God. So in a way, the word doesn't matter. If it's a difficult word for you, just use a different word. The words are not it. It's what the words point to. And what that word for me points to is this deep conscious goodness, this oneness, this being of love, which is arising from the communion of souls, which is arising from the biological process, which is arising from the physical process, which is arising from the great potentiality of spirit from which everything is coming. So that spirit starts as this unconscious potentiality, but turns into this conscious being of love. So that the journey the universe is on, and each one of us, is from this unconscious oneness through ever more conscious individuality to this being part of this being of conscious oneness, unconscious oneness to conscious oneness. which is felt as a love, and that's why it matters. Because oneness can sound a bit abstract, but it's not. It's deep connection with everything, and it's not just fluffy. It's deep connection with everything, including what is awful. It holds that. It gives you strength to enjoy what is good and endure what is hard. That's what the process does. And that's what, when we're connected with God, that gives us the strength to enjoy and endure. And then to play our role, to live our story, to turn our story into a story of bringing this evolutionary love into the world, of sharing it in our own unique way, which will be completely dependent on our particular story. So we get to transform our story, our soul. That's our evolutionary path, our individual path, as part of this greater thing that we're all in together. And that's why I say, look, the waking up now, the enlightenment, to use the old word, it's not individual anymore. It seemed like it was individual because it had to be done by a few pioneers first. So it was individual. But that was to prepare for something which is actually collective. Now it's collective. It's about waking up into this communion of souls together. And that's going to be the next great evolutionary jump. And it's happening now.
Oh, well done. Great answer. Thank you. And if that didn't sell you on the course, I don't know what will. Go ahead and go to evolutionarywakeup.com if you want to be part of conversations like this. Let's go to a question here from Caprice, who wants to know, why do some people awaken and some don't?
God, these are great questions. I love these questions. I love our curiosity. This sounds like people who are really going to resonate. I'm going to resonate with, because that's great. Yeah, why? That's right. Why? Damn, I don't know. It's a mystery. Look, I think we're all on different places on the evolutionary journey. So to wake up to a particular new thing often needs enough old things to have happened, preparation. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to have a philosophical conversation, you need to speak first. If you need to wake up, you need to have prepared the ground in some way, most likely. Developed enough. If you want to wake up to oneness, you have to become more and more of a distinct, robust individual. This is why I say the ego is not the enemy. It's the hero. It's the friend. Your separateness, your individual nature in itself is not the problem. If you're trapped in it and you're egotistical, that's a problem. But in itself, it's not a problem. In yourself, you need to build up a strong individual who's setting themselves free from the collective, and then you're ready and primed, and bang, it can happen. Now, the key thing is, though, we can't make any judgments about each other, because sometimes the people who look most asleep suddenly wake up. So there's no, you can't look at people, oh, you're asleep and you're doing it. It's not like that. Anyone can become the Buddha at any moment, and that's what's so lovely. And also it's up and down, isn't it? It's like, on my best days I'm the Buddha, on my worst days I'm not. And and that's true of all of us. And I accept that about myself, and I try and be authentic so that no one gets any illusions about me, because that would be disastrous. Because we need to we're in this together. So I think it's to do with the evolutionary process that the soul needs to be strong enough to support that level of insight. And that needs a level of maturation to have happened. But you can't always tell when it has or hasn't happened. And I suspect, and this is another big question, I think it happens over lifetimes too. So that some of us are kind of ready. The key thing is, it doesn't make people better in any way. It makes them better in that way, but only that way. Not in any other way. So it's about having a deep humility with that, and also realizing that once if you are somebody who has had the good fortune to wake up, that with it, as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. If you've had that, who thought I'd quote Spider-Man tonight? So if you've had that, wow, it's not just for you. If it's just for you, then it just gets trapped in your separateness, and that is egotistical. It becomes the love just reaches out, and then you just want to share it with as many people. So what I do is just create as much space for people to wake up into if they want to. And, the world on a bad day drives me mad. because it's so asleep and it seems so sad that where people are in this numbness, which we call normal, and in this kind of caught up in their unconscious ideas. They're not even the ideas, they've got their beliefs, but they're not even conscious beliefs. But that's okay. We're just, one of the things which came to me a long time ago, which keeps me going, is look, if you want to be on the leading edge of anything, especially this, then expect to be in a small minority. So if you want to be on the evolutionary leading edge, there's going to be fewer of us because of that very thing. But that's also what makes it such a gift and so exciting, and comes with that responsibility to really reach out from that with humble invite to see that life is so much more than we see in that dull numbness which passes for life.
All right. Wow. Well, we are right on the edge of having time for one question and not having time for any more. And all of these questions are really deep. We've had some amazing questions coming in. So let me throw one last one at you with the caveat that you don't have any time to answer it. And that question, this is from Lawrence, who wants to know, can the pain and agony of our emotions exist without conscious belief systems operating our ways to think? Go.
Wow. Lawrence. There is pain on the physical level, but if on the emotional level, which is asked about, that is always related to a story. Always. Because that's it. The physical pleasure and pain have evolved into the whole range of emotions, which are to do with ideas and how we see life. And so we can change those, and they can't be supported. If you change those, then the experience changes for sure. And that's why this stuff is worth doing, because we can use these. We can use this power of the imagination to change how we perceive things. The thing is, it needs to be a better way of perceiving things. It needs to include everything else. It's no good just trying to go, it's better, it's better, it's better. It needs to actually work. It needs to be intellectually robust, actually, which seems odd, doesn't it? Because it's about feeling. How can you change what I feel? Well, you can change what you feel by having some really clear, powerful ideas through which to experience your emotion. And we'll be going into that, transforming the soul.
All right. Wow. Well, this has just been a mind-blowing conversation. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your fantastic questions. Once again, the Evolutionary Wake Up program starts Thursday, September 19th, and you can visit evolutionarywakeup.com to learn more and to register. So, Tim, before we cut you loose, do you have any final words for our viewers?
It's been a delight to connect with you here. If you feel moved to make the journey with me, I can promise you this, that I will share with you as much as I possibly can in the time available, because this is precious, this life we're in. And my passion is to help us collectively to wake up. And the more we can support each other in that, the better we can make this experience for ourselves and everyone else in our lives. And that feels to be something of great, great value.
All right. Wow. Thank you again, Tim. This has just been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for being with us.
It's been a real pleasure for me too. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Well, once again, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.